Hey guys, good evening to you all. I hope you're all having a fantastic Tuesday. I don't know if you notice the same thing, but people at Gold's anyway seem to be in a bitchier mood today, but I didn't let that ruin me. In fact, I came out of the gym way more happy than I went in because, it just, when you can create complete control over your own state, and, I use visualization to do this. I mean, you can literally put yourself in a euphoric place at will, and it's pretty cool. So what I want to talk about in this video is I would probably say 100% of people, not 100%, but everybody who's struggling with achieving something has a fear of success. And we've all heard this phrase, right? We've all heard this fear of being successful, but do we all actually know what it means? Like, how do you fear being successful? Like, you're probably asking yourself, well, who would be afraid to have like $100 million? Who would be afraid to have like that fantastic relationship? Who would not want to have like a gorgeous body, right? Like, it sounds dumbfounded when we think about it like that, but the problem is, and what we're not taking into account, is that we all have a history, right? Like, it sounds good on paper. Having all of those things sounds good on paper, but we're not taking into account that we all have past experiences that influence whether we actually subconsciously truly really want these things or not. Now, of course, consciously we want all these things. Like I said, like a lot of money and a fantastic guy or girl, or the hottest body on the planet, or like making the cover of a magazine, or writing a book, or starting your own company, or even just like approaching somebody to talk to them, right? Like fear of rejection, right? Now that's a fear of rejection, right? That's not like necessarily a fear of success, right? But it could be. So let's dive deeper into this. So like I said, all of these things sound really great, and a lot of people will say right up front, yeah, like I would kill for that. I would kill for a six-pack. I would kill for $10 million. I would kill to be able to have a life where I can do what I want, when I want, with who I want, work when I want, get up when I want, right? All of us say this stuff, and yet most of us are still struggling in all of these areas, or some of these areas, right? So there's some sort of disconnect there. Now, this is something that I really dove into when I was struggling with, I put on a lot of weight after my accident a couple years ago. Like I said, I had sciatica and bursitis and sacroiliac joint dysfunction, and I couldn't find myself motivated to take off the extra like 20 pounds that I put on during the time I was in rehab. And I was really diving deep into why can't I stay focused on my diet? Why do I keep sabotaging myself, right? This is what we do, right? We sabotage ourselves. We spend and splurge on money. We purposely tell ourselves that we're losers and we don't approach that person. Or we go out and decide on a last minute, our friends call us and they're all going out for pizza, so we decide, hey, I'm going to go out too, or whatever it is, something that you shouldn't be eating that's going to put you back. You purposely put yourself back, right? And you purposely did it. You have to have purposely did it, right? Because you control yourself, right? So what's going on here? What's the disconnect, and why is it there? And how can you be scared of success? Now, let's go back to talking about why you would sabotage your diet, right? Or not work out, or what is your fear of having a hot body? Now, I can tell you what mine was, and like I said, this is gonna vary. That's why this is so complicated, is because there's not one right answer. This is gonna vary per person. So my fear, like, I grew up, like, I was stalked by men when I was in high school. And of course, like, being attractive was a fear to me for a long time. And the reason was because I didn't feel like I was able to protect myself. Now, I actually, now that I've overcome this, this is so common in women. It's really scary. And that's why I really want to coach women in self-esteem and confidence, is because a lot of women feel like they don't have control, or they can't take control of a situation that they get into with a guy. So that's one really critical area. A lot of, like, women will hide themselves because they don't feel like, they don't want to attract attention. They don't want to have eyeballs on them, especially men, right? Like, if they don't feel like they can protect themselves, or they just don't want the attention at all, they're going to go into a way of hiding, right? So it'd be wearing, like, certain type of clothes, maybe unattractive clothes, oversized clothes, no makeup, that kind of thing. And, this is a very subconscious thing that happens, and it just automatically happens. Like, I didn't realize it was happening for almost 20 years, like 50 or 20 years, right? I only just knew I was miserable and lonely. And, like, another example would be, the fear of having a lot of money. Believe it or not, people actually subconsciously can fear having a lot of money. And, what it comes down to is, like, at least for me, it was like a fear of responsibility, right? Like, if you're sitting in your apartment in your house, and you suddenly get a knock at a door, and somebody hands you a check for $1 million, what are you going to do, right? You're going to be in shock, like, holy shit, like, what do I do with this, right? Like, maybe you haven't developed a habit of purchasing assets or investing your money into something that's going to make you more money down the road, right? You might be scared that you don't know how to handle money. You can't handle the responsibility, right? Just like maybe you can't handle the responsibility of someone who's very attractive to the general population. Or, it could be something as simple as, like, buying a house, right? You could fear buying a house because you fear the responsibility of the upkeep of the house, you see? So a lot of these fear of success comes from it comes from a fear of taking responsibility for yourself, right? Like, starting a business, a lot of us are afraid to invest money in a coach or a consultant or whatever, like, or even, like, it could be any kind of coach, like a bodybuilding coach, a diet coach, a nutritionist, a marketing consultant, or a small business coach, or whatever it is. Our fear there is that we're gonna somehow collapse on ourselves. We're gonna do something we know that we should not be doing, right? Like spending money when we shouldn't be, eating something that we shouldn't be. We basically fear that we're not gonna be able to discipline ourselves, and we don't want to face that feeling of, oh shit, I fucked up, right? We would rather push it off on somebody else, or just not pursue it at all. And that feels better. Chemically speaking, right? Like, we have our happy chemicals, our dopamine, serotonin, and this is kind of where it's all rooted to. It's better for us to feel like we didn't fuck up than to feel like we did fuck up, right? And this is what ends up happening, and ends up crushing so many of our dreams and so many of the things that we want to pursue. And so how can you fix this? How can you overcome this fear of success, this fear of having to take responsibility for your life, and stop yourself from eating that cake when you shouldn't, and be able to stop yourself, and, well, basically being able to trust that you're not going to screw yourself over, right? But a lot of this has to also do with acceptance that, yeah, you're going to fuck up down the road. You're going to make mistakes. You may overinvest in someone. You may underinvest in something. You may screw up a relationship. You may go off your diet for a week. A lot of this stuff, and keep in mind, you're the common denominator in all of your fuck ups. Let's just call them fuck ups. Keep in mind that you're the common denominator in a lot of your quote unquote mistakes, right? I actually don't use the word mistakes or failure at all. Like, to me, they're not in my vocabulary anymore. just because I've learned from, I've taken a lesson from every single one. And when you can do that, you're almost like set free, like psh, you're just set free. And when you're not going to punish yourself or beat yourself up, it's really easy to move right along. And this is a really hard habit to develop for a lot of people. And how I overcame it was doing a lot of meditation. Like I said, a lot of neuro-linguistic programming really helped with getting over lessons that I learned from past quote mistakes. And you know, this is what I recently got certified in. This is why I'm really passionate about this, and really helping people overcome their the things that are really holding them back. And it's always emotional. It's always emotional. You know, when I have a client who tells me, I want to start my own business, but I don't know how, I'm gonna question you, because guess what? There's a ton of free information out there, and you know, look at my email box. I get bombarded with free information. Go on YouTube, go find books, everything that you need to learn to lose weight, to start a business, to redirect your money, to save money, to buy assets, to learn about finance, to starting a business, or you know, learning about the opposite sex, relationship psychology. All of this stuff is available, and it can be available cheap. I can give you a list of books that I've read. But the disconnect here, right, is that you're not doing it, right? So there's an abundance of information out there, but we're still not taking action. And that's the gap that I close with my clients. And once you close that gap, you know, I mean, you take off immediately. It's unbelievable. I mean, the minute I realized that, well, actually, there were two reasons why I was fearing getting back into shape was, of course, like being able to protect myself. I'm trying to remember the second fear was, I can't even remember at this point, right? But I uncovered one, and then I realized, okay, I'm still struggling, so there's another fear I need to get over. And you know, there's like I said, you can hire a psychotherapist. You know, hypnotists are great for this. Like I said, this is what I do now with my clients, and it's really setting you free emotionally, because there are other people out there doing this, right? There's other people out there who have their own businesses, who have fantastic bodies, who make a lot of money, right? So if it's possible in the world, right? If it's possible out there, it's possible for you. It's just a matter of how, right? So it's just figuring out that how, and that how is what you need to get over, what emotional blocks and limitations or beliefs that you've built for yourself that you need to kind of unravel, so that you're kind of set free, right? Just cutting those last few strings. Because especially if you're already motivated, all you need is to be set free emotionally. And once you do, man, like you take off like a freaking rocket. Like, I mean, that's what happened to me. I mean, I spent a year and a half really building up confidence, self-esteem, and everything was there. It was just one limiting belief that I had. One tiny limiting belief. And in my neuro-linguistic NLP class, the teacher did a demo on me, boom, gone in like 5 minutes. And from then on out, my life's been different ever since. The vibe I give off is completely different. I get a lot of different attention from men now. You know, it's good attention, not scary or, you know, shitty, unwanted attention. And it's just because I project myself in a new way now. I'm not afraid to project myself in a new way. So, like I said, this always comes back to you. This is not other people doing things to you. You have a self-image of yourself that kind of needs to be remolded or maybe stripped down and rebuilt back up. And you know, this is a process, but man, like I can't tell you how rewarding it is to be able to basically be whoever you want and not be afraid to accomplish anything in life. Like, you literally can just point at something and be like, let's go do it, right? Like, I have no fear of standing up in front of people in public speaking now, and people ask me how I got over my fear of public speaking, which apparently turns out to be the #1 fear among us human beings, right? Like, we fear it. A study was done, and people fear being in a casket. I'm sorry, people fear being up in front of people than they do being in a casket. Like, they would rather be dead than public speaking. And I was determined that this was going to be something that I got over, because I want to influence people. I want to change lives, and there's no way you can do that. We all want to do that, right? We all want to have an impact on this world and leave a legacy. but you can't do that if you can't communicate. So I went hard, right? Like I joined Toastmasters. I had hypnotherapy sessions done. I faced my fears. I started talking to strangers. Like I just went at it hard. I was working with personal development coaches and psychotherapists. I literally was stripped down over a year and a half and rebuilt back up over time. I mean, I did all the work, right? But I had people to guide me, and that's usually what people just need, is just a little bit of guidance, right? So I'm telling you, like, if there's something that you want right now, but you're struggling to stay on track with it, maybe it's a workout, maybe it's a diet, maybe it's investing in something, investing in a coach or a house, or even like a family, right? Like, it can be traumatic to like think about what you're going to have to go through, but you have to build up self-trust. Now, there's different ways of doing this as well, and this is something that I focus on with my clients, is building up self-trust. And like, I can't go into too much detail about what I do with my clients, but I can give you a simple way to start doing this, and it's very effective, especially if you're persistent about it. And this is something I did, and it's basically, you don't want to give yourself situations or challenges that are already like scary in your own eyes. You're like, oh my God, I could never do that. You want to start small. And one thing I tell my clients to do is that start noticing your tiny accomplishments. Like, okay, you got up on time. Woo! You talked to that guy or girl. Woo! However big or small, that's all relative to you. Maybe you finished something at work that you've been lingering on for so long. Woo! Or you decided you weren't going to buy this and you were going to save your money instead. Woo! Like, acknowledge those moments. It is so super important to acknowledge the moments where you overcome your own self. You overcome your own bad quote, you know what I mean? Your bad habits. And just say to yourself, have a little celebration. Just say, I did it. And you can do this 10 or 20 times a day. Just say, I went to the gym today. I did it. I stayed 100% on my diet today. I did it. And you'll be surprised every time you're constantly spiking. You're spiking these happy chemicals in your brain, and your brain is going to start to like say, oh my gosh, like I'm doing a lot of good stuff. And when you can make a list of the things that you want to accomplish in like a day or a week, and you hit all those things, that is how you build self-trust. It's by sticking to your integrity, sticking to your plan. Like I said, this is why it's important to not create goals that are out of reach, right? It's very important to, if you want to finish a book, if you want to write a book, don't say you're going to be done in 3 months, right? That might be intimidating. Give yourself a year. If you want to lose 50 pounds, give yourself, 5 to 10 months. Give yourself time, whatever you think it is, whatever you think it is, not your coach or anyone else. And start, you can literally write down your goals, and just like small goals, right? I made it to the gym. I got up on time. I saved myself some money. I invested in a coach, and just check them off. Just look at your paper and check them off and check them off and check them off. And it's actually creating a chemical reaction in your brain where you start to notice your triumphs, and then what happens is you start to expect them. You start to expect triumphs, and you're also instilling that happiness over and over. You're firing this chemical over and over and over and over again, to the point where it becomes almost like second nature, and you start to know, you're like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And then also, it's also important here to make sure that you're keeping yourself challenged too. So once something becomes easy, like for me, once speaking in front of 20 to 30 people became easy, now I'm stepping up to 50 to 100, right? So we want to make sure, if you stay on your diet for 7 days, now try 2 weeks, try 3 weeks, try a month. You want to keep stepping up your game, and you'll be surprised the amount of power that you can create in yourself and the amount of trust you can establish. And it's truly life changing. So I hope you all got some value out of this video tonight. And like I said, I'll probably be sharing a mix of more informal and formal videos, just because, you know, I have so many ideas and so many things that I want to share with you guys. And like I said, I will upload this this video to my blog at www.buildyourselfinside.com if you want to see more. I have a ton of videos up there about building confidence and self-trust already, and also getting back self-respect and personal power. This is another passion of mine. So if you feel like you need help in any of those areas, feel free to shoot me a message or check out my blog. Again, I will post a link below. And if you guys have any questions, always happy to hear them. Good night, guys.